In the high Himalayas, winter makes the village feel elevated, as if the earth itself has retreated to bring the sky closer. Survival here is a calculation dictated by the wind and the soil. The villagers live under a dual pressure. There is the lethal cold that seeps through clothing, and there is the sarpanch, the village head, who stands on his balcony, ensuring every family pays their land tax, regardless of the harvest. This environment creates a specific type of isolation. Each house operates as a closed unit. While a fire in one home might physically warm the window of the next, the social connection is severed. Fear of the sarpanch and the scarcity of winter keep every door locked from the inside. This separation is the village's greatest weakness. By facing the mountain and the tax collector alone, the families remain easy to manage and impossible to unify. On a night when the wind is sharp enough to stop all conversation, a group of figures emerges from the forest. These are bandits, men who usually live by taking what others have grown. The villagers watch through cracks in their doors. The arrival of an outlaw usually signals immediate violence, a threat the village is physically and psychologically unprepared to meet. The sarpanch stays in his larger, sturdier house, looking at the stars. His usual authority, built on ledgers and village tradition, holds no weight against men who have already abandoned the law. For the first time, the village's vertical power structure has no answer. Two different worlds are moving toward each other in the dark, and the old methods of control are suddenly silent. But the bandits don't attack. They simply walk to the center of the village and huddle around the communal fire. They aren't looking for a fight. They are looking for warmth. The first break in the tension comes from a woman who carries a pot of warm water to the fire. She doesn't ask for their names or their history. She sees the way they hold their hands to the flames. In this extreme cold, the labels of citizen and criminal begin to thin. The primary concern isn't who these men are, but the fact that everyone in the square is breathing the same freezing air. The village square, usually a place of silence and quick glances, becomes a space of quiet, mutual observation. The perceived threat is replaced by the reality of shared physical endurance. When survival becomes the only immediate goal, artificial social hierarchies often take a back seat to basic human cooperation. The following morning, an outlaw notices a broken irrigation channel. He kneels in the freezing mud and begins resetting the heavy stones. A villager brings a shovel. A young man brings more stones. They work to redirect the flow. No orders are given, and no one asks who is in charge of the field. This shared effort changes the village's architecture. On our diagram, the vertical pressure from the sarpanch remains, but horizontal lines are now forming between the houses. Moving stones together creates a connection that paperwork cannot replicate. The sarpanch stands on his porch, watching the irrigation lines straighten. For the first time, the work of the village is happening without his direction or his permission. While his official title hasn't changed, his influence has. A community that learns to maintain its own infrastructure without a middleman starts to view authority differently. The new dynamic is tested when government officials arrive to collect the winter tax. They bring soldiers and ledgers, expecting the usual compliance. Instead of retreating into their homes, the villagers gather in the square. Behind them, the bandits stand in the shadows, not as an army, but as a physical reminder of the village's new density. The official looks at his ledger, which demands payment based on a theoretical harvest. Then he looks at the calloused hands of the men in the square, and the actual seeds they've managed to save. Seeing the repaired canals and the unified front, the official makes a pragmatic choice. He records a partial crop failure in his books, allowing the village to pay half the tax and keep enough seed for the spring. The government's abstract power over the village didn't end through a trial or a treaty. It ended because the community presented a reality that the officials couldn't safely ignore. The bandits eventually move on, but one man stays behind. He moves into a derelict hut and spends his days in the fields. His past as an outlaw is known, but in the village he is now defined by the stones he moves. Late in the season, a final massive storm hits. In the past, this would have been a night of individual disasters. This time, when the wind starts tearing at the thatched roofs, the villagers don't wait for a request. They head out into the dark together to tie down their neighbors' homes. They've learned that survival in a high-altitude winter isn't about how much you can hoard for yourself. It's about the collective security of the roof next to yours. Isolation made the village easy to exploit. By working together on the smallest irrigation ditches and the weakest roofs, the villagers built a system that the Sarpanch and the storm can no longer break.